Kimi Code's API is 5 times cheaper than Claude Code's, $0.95 per million input tokens versus $5. At any real coding volume, that gap is hundreds of dollars a month. AI coding agents are eating dev budgets right now, so I'm comparing Kimi Code versus Claude Code across 5 tests to see who actually wins. The cheaper tool wins on price and context, but there's a reliability catch that could flip your whole decision, and the conditional verdict is where that pays off. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this video traces back to official pricing pages and model cards both companies actually publish. If you're running a coding agent at scale, thousands of tokens a day, picking the wrong tool burns real budget fast. Test 1. Cost. The number that kicked off this whole comparison is 0.95 per million input tokens for Kimi Code versus 5 euros for Claude Code's Opus tier. Send 1 million tokens a day and you're looking at a $1,130 monthly gap before you've touched fast mode or enterprise pricing. And that's pretty hard to just wave away. I went through every published price tier for both tools. Kimi Code's K2.7 API is 0.95 input and 4.00 output per million tokens. Claude's Opus 4.8 is 5.0 input and 25.0 output. So on the output side, Claude is more than 6 times pricier. Subscription plans are actually pretty similar, $19 to $190 for Kimi and $17 to $200 for Claude. But community reports say Kimi's $99 monthly allotment runs dry in about 4 days, while Claude's lasts longer at similar pricing. Kimi Code takes cost. The API price gap is just too wide to ignore, about 5 times cheaper per token on input and way more on output, and that puts Kimi Code up 1-0. Take the subscription allotment numbers with a grain of salt, though, since those come from community sentiment, not hard verified data. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. A tool that's 5 times cheaper but generates code that doesn't compile on the first try is costing you debugging time, which is real money. So benchmark scores matter a lot here. What surprised me is how consistent the gap is across benchmarks. I looked at 6 shared tests and Claude Opus 4.8 wins 5 of them. On Kimi Code Bench V2, it's Kimi at 62.0 versus Claude at 67.4, and on Program Bench, it's Kimi 53.6 versus Claude 63.8. The one area Kimi K2.7 actually wins is MCP Mark verified, scoring 81.2 to Claude's 76.4. Kimi's newer K3 model reportedly edges Opus 4.8 on some community benchmarks, but I couldn't verify those numbers independently, so I'm not scoring them. Claude Code takes coding benchmarks. 5 wins out of 6 on shared tests is pretty decisive. And I'll be straight with you. The benchmark data says Claude is genuinely ahead on raw coding performance right now, which is more of a gap than the price story alone would suggest. That ties things up at 1-1, and it's the reason this comparison doesn't have a clean sweep. Test 3. Speed. A solo dev waiting on a 500-line refactor at 2 a.m., every extra second the agent takes is friction that kills your flow. Speed tiers exist on both tools and both charge more for them, so the question is whether you're getting comparable performance for the extra cost. The data just doesn't let me call a clear winner here. Kimi publishes actual numbers, up to 100 tokens per second standard, 180 to 260 tokens per second on high speed. Claude only says fast mode is 2.5 times faster than standard, with no absolute tokens per second figure I could find anywhere. These are different measurement setups, so you can't directly stack the numbers. The gap here might be smaller than the numbers suggest, or it might be bigger. There's genuinely no way to tell. Kimi's high-speed tier is 5 to 6 times faster than its own standard mode. Claude's fast mode is 2.5 times faster than its standard. Because they're measuring relative to different baselines, any direct comparison would just be made up, so this one stays unscored. Speed is a tie. Both tools have fast tiers, both charge extra for them, and neither gives you enough published data to compare them head-to-head, so the score stays at 1-1 with speed unresolved. And calling it either way would just be guessing. Alright, so we're tied 1-1 with speed unresolved, and the next 2 tests are the ones that could actually flip your decision. Context window size determines whether Kimi can even handle your codebase. and deployment coverage determines whether you can use the winning tool in your actual setup. And one of those has a number that genuinely shocked me. Test 4. Context and output limits. 1 million tokens, that's the number. If your code base is large enough that the model starts forgetting the top of the file, by the time it's writing the bottom, you're getting hallucinations and broken references, and you're paying to fix them. Context window size is the hard ceiling on what these tools can handle in a single pass. I pulled the published specs for both tools, and the gap is pretty wild. Kimi Code 2.7 code gives you 262,144 tokens, which is already more than Claude's 200,000. But Kimi's newer K3 model goes all the way to 1 million tokens, 5 times Claude's context window. On output limits, I couldn't find published figures for either tool, so I'm not scoring that part. Kimi Code takes context, a 1 million token window on K3 versus Claude's 200,000 is a real structural advantage for large code bases, and that puts Kimi Code ahead 2 to 1. A 5 times advantage is way more than the modest edge I thought I'd find going in. Test 5. Deployment and modality. A viewer objection I keep seeing is this: I don't care about benchmarks, I just need it to work in my IDE on my machine. That's a totally fair point. If the better priced tool doesn't plug into JetBrains or run on your OS, none of the earlier scores matter for your workflow. Here's what I found. Claude Code runs on macOS, Linux, and Windows, plus mobile on iOS and Android, and integrates with VS Code, JetBrains, Cursor, and Devon Desktop. Kimi Code covers CLI, VS Code, and API access, and its K3 model adds native vision input that Claude doesn't specify. Kimi also ships K2.7 under a modified MIT license, so the weights are open, while Claude is fully proprietary. Users consistently say Claude wins on maturity and polish, though. Deployment is a tie. Claude has broader platform and IDE coverage. Kimi has a native vision and open weights, and user sentiment says Claude feels more polished, but Kimi's open source angle matters to a lot of teams. The score lands at 2 to 1 for Kimi Code, with 2 categories tied overall. Okay, so here's where Kimi Code clearly wins. The API is about 5 times cheaper per token, $0.95 input versus $5.8 for Claude's Opus tier. Context window on K3 is 1 million tokens, 5 times Claude's 200,000. And K2.7 ships with open weights under a modified MIT license, plus native vision input on K3 that Claude doesn't match. And here's where Claude Code clearly wins. It takes 5 of 6 shared coding benchmarks against Kimi Code 2.7, and users consistently say, code compiles and runs on the first try, more often with Claude. Broader platform coverage across macOS, Linux, Windows, JetBrains, and Cursor, plus a more mature and polished ecosystem across the board. The benchmark data made this genuinely close, which I kind of didn't see coming. So here's the decision rule. If you're price sensitive and working with large code bases, that 5 times cheaper API and 1 million token context window are hard to walk away from. Go with Kimi Code. If you want code that compiles on the first try and a tool that works across every IDE and platform you already use, Claude Code is worth the premium. 5 times cheaper is the gap you're trading for reliability. If you want to see how Claude Code stacks up against a free local alternative, I ran that exact test. Check out Olama versus Claude Code, can free local keep up. It answers a question a lot of you are going to have after seeing that 5 times price gap today.